You're listening to the Oneofus.net podcast network.
Get her done. We only heard it twice in this movie. No, was it 3 times?
I only heard it once.
No, he said
it was at least twice.
It was at least twice.
I think it might have been 3 times.
But thankfully, that's about as much screen time as he has in this film, which I am happy that Pixar has learned after, Cars 2, which was, arguably their worst movie to date. Yeah. It is just a mess. It is there just to sell toys. Now, this movie has some of that too, but it didn't put in the effort to tell a coherent story. Whereas I have to say, in Cars 3, they actually do it. And for the most part, it's okay.
Yeah, I liked it.
It's perfectly fine.
I more than liked it, but we'll get into that.
Okay, all right. But before we do that, I am Chris Herman. I'm joined by
George Hickman.
Your boy, John Romo.
And we are talking about Cars 3, the final chapter, the last entry in the
don't get your hopes up
in the Cars franchise. I don't know.
As long as they continue selling billions of dollars of merchandise, they will keep making.
Now, the thing about this movie is, and you bring that up, is really funny. There is a bit of a meta commentary throughout this film, and where they poke fun at the fact, the Cars franchise has just been about the brand. It's about selling these toys, because apparently all of the the toys for the series, like all of the kind of the material that came out of this movie, it's earned the most out of all of Pixar's films in terms of that. So it's been a huge...
Well, not just that, Disney.
Yeah, for Disney. Yeah. It's a huge billion-dollar marketing franchise for Disney. But I like the fact they kind of made fun of that, and where they were actually addressing a lot of the problems from the previous Cars films. And for, people that want to get a general description of the plot, which it has one, thankfully... this takes place a few years after the original Cars, and it follows Lightning McQueen, who's still racing... But he's getting a little long in the tooth, a little long in the radiator, if you will.
Is that the only car part that you knew?
I know that there is a dash, which is the dashboard. There is an engine in the car.
There's a keyhole.
There's a keyhole.
And a steering wheel.
There's a gas
No, there's no key. We don't see interiors in cars because that's for where the brain...
I want to get into that. We got to stop. But,
there aren't keyholes because they don't have keys.
That's very true. But Lightning McQueen, he's still racing, but he's getting a little long in the tooth. A lot of his old compatriots, a lot of his fellow racers are getting replaced by all these new fancy sports cars. All these foreigners, all these foreign cars.
As new cars are coming in, his co-veterans are getting kicked out by the rookies, and he's floundering.
These foreign rookies, and of course, one in particular, Jackson Storm, Jet Jackson himself, has returned from the 2000s Disney era original series.
George Miller's Batman, Armie Hammer.
Yes, that's a deep cut right there. Yeah, Armie Hammer, who plays such a boring character. I forgot it was voiced by Armie Hammer. I'd actually check in the credits. But, Lightning McQueen, he can't compete anymore. He suffers an accident, and he's like, people are telling me, you're washed up, man. You got to retire. He's like, no, I'm not going to retire.
I'll choose when I retire.
I'll choose when I retire. I'll choose when I'm done racing. And, of course, he goes into this whole, rehabilitation clinic for cars to try to fix himself, run by the great Nathan Fillion, which I'm kind of sad by the fact that out of all of the great projects that Nathan Fillion could have, been in Pixar, he picks Cars 3. Oh, no, I was wrong. He was in Monsters University as well, which was not a great movie.
I like Monsters University.
I don't get that. Why do people think that?
I like Monsters.
I like most Pixar movies.
I like the first Monsters Inc. better. But I am not wrong. That is a great film.
I have yet to dislike any Pixar film, really. Even Cars 2.
All right. Fair enough. But as we learn in the film that this whole kind of clinic thing that Lightning McQueen is going through, it's not really working for him. But then he finally goes to look for Doc Holliday, voiced by the once great Paul Newman, goes to find his old teacher.
Doc Hudson.
Doc
Hudson, the fabulous Hudson Hornet.
And he goes looking for Smokey, this mysterious Jedi master of car racers. And then we get to the the film as it is.
The resolution.
The resolution. I pretty much
the dynamic of the trainer becoming the trainee.
And the trainer becoming the
Cruz
trainee.
Ramirez, and really it's important, the dynamic between Lightning and Cruz is what makes this movie.
Voiced by Cristela Alonso, who I'm not too familiar with. But
I have no idea who she is.
I will say that I think of all of the voice actors in this film, she actually does the best job, because the film is not so much about Lightning McQueen. It's about her. And, him coming to the realization, like, his time is done, and he has to make room for the up-and-coming,
So, I mean, just from the standpoint of this franchise has always been geared towards boys. So what do you think about the fact that they're literally handing the torch here to a girl character? Do you think that's roping in more girls? I mean, are they shooting themselves in the head for some reason? Like, what is going to be the impact of that? I personally think it's great that little boys are being sold a female hero. I think that's awesome in a franchise that really has catered towards them as hard as it possibly can.
I don't think it matters, because I don't know what the hell denotes gender in this universe or whatever, or sexuality.
Well, boys,
there are
really.
Truck nuts. There's
Truck nuts?
Truck nuts on every boy car.
There you go. Yes, that
There are no
must
truck
be it.
nuts in this.
No, but to dig into that, I think since it's a car, it's kind of hard to tell. But then again, I don't really think a kid thinks you do.
I don't think kids are gonna
as long
care.
as it's going vroom, the kid's going to buy it.
As long as they
Cars
keep
are
going
pink
left.
or more girly in color and that sort of thing, and there's a whole history.
What do you think all the
Get
racist
into.
kids are going to think? Like, oh, she's got a Spanish name. Not going to buy that car.
Yeah. But the thing is about the movie, it's like I did appreciate that they actually tried to have a story with this film, and where it's a story that we've seen before. Like I referenced off mic before that this is very much the color of money of the Cars film. Where in Hustler you have the Paul Newman, who was the champion pool hustler guy, and then eventually he years later in Color of Money he trains a person named Tom Cruise, which again is a reference to the Cruise character in this film. So I'm thinking, okay, I see what you're doing here. I think it's clever in that way. But yeah, and I think my biggest problem outside the story, the story is good, but my biggest problem with the movie is that even though the animation is very beautiful to look at, they're never doing anything interesting with it. And that's always been my problem with the Cars, particularly the first Cars movie, where I recognize that what you're doing is incredible. Sure, like just putting this whole together, but it's never interesting because they're always going left.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, there are certain points where the animation looks really pretty. There's a scene where his clothing kind of thing is ripping off, and I was like, oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Good shot of a fence somewhere in there. But the landscapes aren't vast enough ever, and it doesn't look great during the daylight scenes. It looks good.
It looks empty.
But when I remember seeing Monsters University,
Because this is some strange post-apocalyptic world. Alternate universe, it is empty because there's no light. They mention crabs, but they don't show the crabs because they're imaginary.
But I remember when watching Monsters University being awed at the kind of light techniques that they were using, and even in Good Dinosaur, which I think is fine.
Actually, that's the one. That's my least favorite.
Has great water effects and makes that a centerpiece of the movie. Whereas I can only think of those few shots, and the night scene is pretty nice when they get to use that lighting technology.
The water on the beach
again.
is good too, if you want to talk about that.
But it's barely there. Again, like Chris was saying, the landscapes all look the same.
They don't do anything with it.
They don't do anything.
There's nothing in the background. It just doesn't feel alive. Now, what I will say,
but if you want to, I mean, the whole Cars and great environments, that's Cars 2, where it's like, wow, Tokyo looks amazing. All these foreign locations, they look great. I think this being more about let's actually tell a story and them doing that really well, it serves the movie ultimately better. And I think there's plenty of eye candy in this, ultimately, and I appreciate that. But I think it's in service to the story. We're not just going to show, we're not just going to show pretty locations. I think the first and the second do that better because that's what they want to do, and this one doesn't even care as much. Sure. But there are certain shots where it's just so photorealistic, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one point in the film where I did think the animation worked really well is when they kind of go to like I don't know, what is it, like a monster truck rally or something like that.
A night scene with a lot of fire. I think they did fire.
It's a demolition derby, and I think
demolition derby. That's it.
And that's one of the cooler scenes in the movie. I think. I mean, just the whole sequence is really great and something you haven't seen yet in the Cars universe.
There's a lot going on. It's not the similar,
exactly.
we're all going in a line. It's so much chaos.
Yeah.
And you're still able to tell what's going on.
Yeah, it's actually really well choreographed, I think. And you follow where the people are the entire time, like two people you care about most. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I actually kind of like the idea of introducing some of these new characters. Like, I really like kind of Smoking, where they go to this, like, old town in, like, Mississippi, and they introduce some of, like, kind of the supporting players. I think, Smokey, who was played by, I don't know. He's not listed in the cast. At least I don't see him.
I saw he was on IMDb, and I already forgot.
Yeah. But I like some of the supporting players in there because they were, having seen Cars 2 and how everyone was so exaggerated when you have, like, Mike O'Kane, guest starring as like a spy car and all this, and just plant the fact that I'm British. Isn't that funny? It's like, I like that they had characters who actually, for the most part, felt real. And they actually took some time to develop a bit. And the other thing is, I like that they emphasized the relationship between Lightning and Paul Newman's character. Was it Doc? What's his name again? Doc Hudson.
Doc Hudson.
That was really good. And it does bring up a weird thing, though. It's like, does death exist in this universe?
Obviously. Doc Hudson has to be dead. Like, that's the only explanation. Because in Cars 2, the way they just kind of wistfully talk about him, they didn't just disappear. And then this even more just kind of nails it that he's dead.
Wait, he was in Cars 2, right?
No.
He passed away by then.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. He's not in Cars 2. But they kind of allude to him in a way that he's probably dead. I mean, obviously,
they play around
point,
it.
Yeah.
Cars get smashed to the point where they no longer exist, or they just drive off a cliff or something.
They run out of gas.
Well, no, because you can run out of gas and still be gassed up in this universe. So.
Gosh, this universe is weird.
Yeah.
It is so weird. I love how weird it is. Chris Cooper plays Smokey.
Chris Cooper, thank you.
Yeah. Since his name is Chris, I don't care about anyone named Chris.
Yeah,
so,
of course. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
no, Chris Cooper's amazing. So
Fuck you, George. And it's Maximum Overdrive universe.
It is. I guess that's what I was going to bring up at the end. Spoiled my joke, but yes, this is a Maximum Overdrive universe, and where the cars, I guess, had won and they killed everyone, and now they rule the planet.
Yeah.
But what is inside them? Is there
anything
human?
organic? Like,
is there organic?
Do they have brains? Do they have anything resembling souls? There's so much to ponder, particularly if you just get high and watch the Cars movies. And,
I think it's a question for the philosophers, I suppose.
Yeah.
But just to kind of go into my own final thoughts for the film, it has no right to be as good as it was. I think that it's not going to be the animated movie that people are going to go back to like, oh, that's one of Pixar's best. It's not. But for what it does well. You have a number of likable characters. I think this is probably, Owen Wilson's best performance is Lightning McQueen in these films. He's actually given something to do. His character is given some depth. A number of the supporting characters, Cruz was introduced. I think Cristela Alonso does a great job. Chris Cooper, who plays Smokey, does a great job. In terms of the characters that just don't work, again, Larry the Cable Guy is Mater. It's like, he just doesn't need to be in there whatsoever.
He's Jar Jar in this, as far as episode 2, where they just kind of...
If Jar Jar was a redneck.
Here.
And not so racist.
That's enough.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you stuck around. After the credits, there's a small scene with
I did not.
Also.
I did not stick around for the end of the credits. Honestly, like probably the weakest character in the whole film is Armie Hammer, who is just a one-note villain, and he's just there to be a threat. He's not giving any depth. Which Pixar has been known for like their past few films to actually give their villain
basically
depth.
Lightning McQueen at the beginning of Cars 1.
Sure.
That's what I was going to say about this movie.
Yeah. You want to go into your final thoughts?
Okay.
as well?
Yeah, I guess so. So the whole point of the movie is about youth and old things fighting, essentially. I don't like any of the old characters very much. I couldn't really get behind Lightning's plight because it is sort of just like, why? Just like, stop. It's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the second half of the movie where Cruz really takes over, and it does become her movie, that I really got more invested. Everything else felt more like a Cars 1 sort of thing, which I do enjoy Cars. I think I told you before the screening that I think Cars serves a purpose as compared to like Brave. I don't really like Brave because I don't remember anything
love
about it. Like Brave doesn't seem like it's for adults or for children, whereas Cars is so for children. It's kind of like, well, at least you're a movie specifically for them, and that's a whole other thing. But essentially, my problem is the fact that I can never be behind Lightning, and even the stuff with the Doc Hudson, it doesn't feel as earned as it acts like it is. Whereas I don't, he's not in Cars 2, and he's more antagonistic through 70% of the first movie.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I don't ever feel as invested in his plight, whereas Cruz is someone who has worked hard all her life and is finally getting a chance. And even, I noticed the female thing that it started talking, and I noticed she was one of the only female voices I've noticed in the entire series.
Yeah.
Well,
One who's at least an athlete, part of the racing world. And so
Sally is Lightning's girlfriend's a Porsche, but she doesn't race at all in the first one, except for like as a joke, she kind of races.
yeah,
him.
and she's just a love interest though.
Yeah.
And Cruz
her
is her
function.
own person,
Yeah.
her own. She
she's
has her
a lawyer
own,
too.
She has her own.
She has a good lawyer joke.
That is good. She has her own motivations and everything. So her story is far more interesting, and her ultimate journey is just something I could get invested in. And so it's kind of odd that in the last half of the third movie is when I'm finally interested in the plights of these cars. Do I give it a score? Did you give it a score?
I didn't give a score.
I give it a score. 7 out of 10 vroom vrooms.
I'll reciprocate that and give that 7 out of 10 skid marks. George, what about yourself?
A lot of thoughts I haven't even touched on yet. I think that as I hate to play the parent card, but as a parent, I really like where this is going. I know my son's going to love this. He loves Cars 1. He doesn't really like Cars 2. I actually like Cars 2 more than he does. We won't even touch on the Planes movies, which I've seen entirely too much because he also got obsessed with those, which are part of the Cars universe.
Wait, what? Are they really?
Yeah, they are.
Like canon?
Yes, they are.
Do they make any like cameo
There's
appearances in the film?
Yes. Well, there's a short film, A Mater's Tall Tales, called Air Mater, that introduced Stacy Keach's character from Planes.
I don't know who that is or what character she played.
Anyway, yes.
Yes.
They are related, and in
All
fact, a couple Cars characters or characters that were in Cars are in Planes also. But neither here nor there. Getting as far as how this is about Lightning, and the joke is that the first Cars is basically Doc Hollywood, the second Cars is basically If Looks Could Kill, and this one, in a strange way, is Albert Brooks's Defending Your Life. And that the catalyst for the movie is a horrific car crash. The entire, how he basically finds himself and what his life means is through the eyes of another person. And when he finally, gets a direction, aside from just doing the same thing that he's always done his entire life, when he finds kind of a new purpose and how to move on to the next thing for him, it's through the relationship with this woman who just challenges him in a way that he's never been challenged before. And that's Defending Your Life. Of course, in that, Albert Brooks died. And the weird thing about that is all three are 1991 Warner Brothers releases. So if they do a Cars 4, I'm calling it now, it's either going to be JFK or Ricochet.
So one's going to get assassinated, apparently.
Yes.
That was going to happen? All right, well.
No,
hopefully it's Larry the Cable Guy.
But as far
It's
as
character Mater, not the actual person.
I think, there are a lot of kids at the screening. I think kids really enjoyed it. People were clapping.
Man, adults really. The kids were enjoying it, but some of the adults in the theater were going crazy. I'm like, all right, settle down.
Yeah.
Now, my girlfriend loved it. This is the first time I brought her to a screening and getting to see the sort of
Taking her to good movies, right?
Seeing the mainstream point of view,
Yeah.
they obviously are going to like this movie.
So
Yeah.
for a Cars film, it transcends the other Cars films in just being an entertaining movie, and being a movie that parents won't mind watching as much as their kids are going to want to watch this, and they will want to watch this. It does a lot that Cars does successfully, even better. It's less clumsy. The pacing is better overall than either of the two Cars movies, which, pardon the pun, they both have so much wheel spinning. It's ridiculous. But this is just a really strong film. The humor works. They don't drop the humor, which in both Cars, they just, if Larry the Cable Guy doesn't make an appearance, every 5 minutes, there's just no humor. Well, Luigi and Guido are also kind of funny, and they're in this more than Mater is, which I love.
Yes.
Because I love Luigi and I love Guido.
I love Mario.
I was just thinking too.
Yeah. But just being about Lightning reclaiming his legacy, figuring out what that even means. There's a lot of dead people who die that are part of the first Cars cast that make appearances in this, although they've mostly been recast. And even a person who didn't die, like Chick Hicks, was recast for this. Bob Peterson, who co-directed Up, does Chick Hicks' voice, where it was Michael Keaton in the first movie. I don't even know why. It was probably distracting to only me, because I'm like, that's not Michael Keaton. That's not Chick Hicks. It doesn't even sound like Chick Hicks.
You were the only person.
What's up with that?
Big Chick Hicks fan, I see.
Yeah, it's anytime Pixar has one of their own employees does the voice, it's usually it's a temp track, and they're like, leave it. We're not going to pay an extra $500,000 for Michael Keaton to come in here and re-record his 8 lines, whatever. So I was like, what is that? Anyway, I don't even know what all this means. I just know I really enjoyed the movie. I give it 9 out of 10.
Wow, Jesus.
Very confused alternate universe theories about what the fuck is going on with these cars.
I just will never understand that. I can get, the anthropomorphized animals, that's fine, but just something to do with the cars and the fact that they're interacting with household objects. They're not car size, but it's that's a radio. It's
so many things they kind of have to cheat. But yeah,
there's dinner plates they
who
eat.
invents this technology? And it's weird is the technology is advancing the same way it's advancing with humans. So how is that even possible?
I love that there's a band, a car band.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was great.
I love that. And they're playing a Springsteen song, which how is that even possible? It's a Springsteen song from the 90s. So obviously the car apocalypse happens later. This happened thousands of years ago, and they're just progressing on the timeline. Are you done recording?
No, I'm keeping going. Let's see how long it goes for. I'm just getting ready.
I can keep talking about cars for a long time, but I think oh my god, this universe.
I mean, this society has gotten so weird where now you have cars driving other cars that live inside other cars.
Oh, you had that in the first one, though, too.
As far as the trucks. I don't. I mean, that's weird.
It is weird, absolutely, completely.
Yeah, but for the most part, I think Cars 3 is Oneofus.net approved.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? So you can be weirded out just like we were, and philosophize and ponder these important questions of Pixar's Cars.
Oneofus.net has been your one-stop shop for all things geek for years. But there's a side to them many of you have never heard. The subscription side. Subscribe and listen to great podcasts like The Breakfast Pub, The Original Gentleman, and the Watch a Movie With Us series. Head on over to Oneofus.net and don't forget your towel.